Us now to talk about his story and what he found out. Peter, good morning and thanks very much for your time. I mean, basically give us a quick rundown as to what you were investigating and what you found out.
Yeah, Ivanga, this is just another instance we've identified where all indications are that the Free State Development Corporation, which is a state-owned entity down in the Free State that has a mandate to develop business and encourage economic growth in that province, is basically being used by a list of individuals who appear to be very close to the Premier, Magashule, who basically use contracts and property deals from the FTC to basically enrich themselves. In this particular instance, the FTC has quite a vast property portfolio. It owns about 1 billion rands worth of properties, and in this particular case, it owns about 42 student accommodation units in Bloemfontein, apartments that are leased by students. What our investigation, however, showed is that instead of the FTC earning or pulling in the rental payments for these properties, they are being collected by a businessman called Glenn Netchevotsa, who owns a company called Ituteng Consulting. He's the man who's billing the students for these apartments, and they effectively collecting rent that should be accruing or should be collected by the government-owned entity, the FTC.
Okay, so just to sort of clarify a couple of things for us, these students paying rent for these apartments, were they paying out of their own pockets? Is this sort of money that was being paid for them in terms of their,
Sure.
part of their fees, their, what would you call it, bursaries? I don't know exactly what the term was. Or is this being paid by those who could afford these apartments on their own? And, what was the money supposed to be used for them?
Yeah, sure, no, absolutely. I think most important, so I think it's a bit of a concoction of the two. I think in some instances, a lot of those students do appear to be studying on bursaries. They are being funded by the university, by NEFSAS and so on, but a lot of them are also privately funded students. It's essentially a scheme whereby these student rental amounts, they come to about 4,000 Rand a month for these apartments. They should be channeled to the FTC, the legal owner of the properties, and then the FTC uses these funds that it basically earns from these properties in its property portfolio. The profits from these properties, that is supposed to, according to the FTC's mandate, to be appropriated for economic development in the province. So the FTC, for instance, would fund businessmen in the province. They've set up various sort of business hubs and business development nodes in the province. There's some industrial development and so on. So that is effectively what the problem is here, is that monies that should go to the FTC to encourage economic development of the province is now instead being diverted to a businessman with links to the FTC chairperson.
So who is going to be implicated in this, other than this businessman who has to probably answer a lot of questions? Who enabled this? Who allowed this to happen?
Exactly,
and who didn't do their job?
I think that should definitely be the next step, and I certainly hope that that the relevant law enforcement agencies and institutions like the Public Protector now sit up and take note of the fact that the FTC and other Free State government entities, which for many years seems to have been operating quite in the dark to a large extent, that there's vast amounts of looting that occur around those kind of like government entities. So I think that's going to be the next step, is to find out exactly who's been sanctioning these corrupt deals. We have the chairperson, Hansi Matseke. She's directly linked to this businessman who's basically milking the proceeds of these apartments. So there's something that certainly has to be looked at further. But then, seeing as this is the second instance we're reporting on the FTC and individuals who benefit from FTC deals, who all have a proximity. One of them being
Magashule's daughter.
Exactly, who have this proximity to Premier Magashule. I think therein is also a very important thing to be looked at by the relevant authorities.
But do you think that at any point you'll be able to, that link will be made, or do you think he will continue to avoid anything?
Look, I think if the investigations are conducted in a proper manner, then certainly the ties would be there. I mean, we've seen this with the Istina dairy farm. There's been some renewed interest from the Hawk side and the AFU and so on. So if those kind of entities also look at the FTC particularly and see where these kind of fundings flow to, I'm certain we'll see some very interesting things.
Well, we have a new premier-elect in the Free State, and some observers saying she's a very close pal of Ace Magashule. What hope do we have of getting answers here?
That might be the problem. Yeah, Sisin Tombela has been viewed as an ally of Magashule, and now she is in that that position. So let's see how that affects any potential investigations.
So where have you taken this information? Has anybody requested it? Have you offered it to anyone?
Yeah, look, so usually when we report on indications of corruption, some of the opposition parties would take note, and oftentimes they do get hold of us and ask us for further information. So in this particular instance, it hasn't happened yet. With the previous FTC revelation that has occurred already, so the DA has indicated that they would ask the legal team to look at how the FTC set up some of these property deals, and especially the one involving Premier Magashule's daughter and so on. So let's hope in this particular instance there's also some further action from that side.
All right, we can't wait to see if anything happens, what happens, and what your next bit of unearthing is going to bring to us. Thank you very much. That's News 24 investigative journalist Pieter-Louis Myburgh. A quick